So these are 4 warm-up problems. It'd be in your best interest to pause the video right now so you can see the screen. Work them out on a separate sheet of paper or on a scratch sheet of paper, and then check your answers and see if you get what I get. If you look, I'm going to go through the same steps that we talked about yesterday. Is it set equal to 0? Does it need to be? Is there a GCF? Factor the rest, check your work, and then solve it if necessary. So if you look at all of these, none of them are set equal to 0. So that leaves just checking a GCF and then factoring the rest. So here, number 1, my GCF is 3 and then x squared and y. So then, let's see, what am I left with? I still need a y to the third, so if I multiplied those two together, I'd get the original. Minus 6, I need x to the third to get my x to the fifth. My y is already on the outside, so I don't need another one. Let's see, so always check your work. 3x squared y times y to the third is that. 3x squared y times negative 6x to the third. We're good. All right. Number 2 is a binomial. Why do I like that binomial? Because I see perfect squares and subtraction. So we have x and x. And remember, the other way to think about it is 2 numbers that multiply to be negative 49 and add to be 0, because we don't want a middle term, so plus 7 and minus 7. For number 3, it's just a regular trinomial. There is no GCF, so you can go right in your parentheses. We need x and x here. All right, 2 numbers that multiply to be 6. It could either be 1 and 6, or it could be 3 and 2. Watch your signs here, you guys. Your signs have to be the same because that's a positive 6, and in this case, they both need to be negative. So this is going to be, I believe, 3 and 2, but I'm going to check my work. X times x is x squared. Negative 2x minus 3x is negative 5x. Negative 3 times negative 2 is a positive 6. All right. So, last but not least, number 4. We don't have a GCF, so I'm just going to go right into factoring. I have to do a 3x and an x, because that's the only thing that's going to get me 3x squared. My only factors of 5 are 1 and 5, and my signs are I'm going to have 1 plus and 1 minus because I need them to multiply to be a negative 5. If we check our work, 3x times x is 3x squared. Negative 15x plus 1 is negative 14x, which is sweet. All I need to do is change my signs. I'm going to make that a minus and that a plus, and then I'm going to check my work again. 3x times x is 3x squared. 15x minus 1x is 14x. Negative 1 times 5 is negative 5. Sweet. All right. So, now, today, I'll go over questions tomorrow on the homework, but hopefully you went in and got help if you needed it. All right, you guys, we factored trinomial with an a value of 1. Then, yesterday, we factored trinomials with an a value that was prime. And the reason we started with that is because it's easy. Excuse me. Because if a is prime, it's like number 4 here, where your only options in this case were 3x and x. Okay? Now, with that being said, we're going to do factoring with any value of a. So, here, not only are we paying attention to factors of 40, but we also have factors of our a value. So, how this works. Still, number 1, we don't need to set it equal to 0 or have one side equal 0. We're not solving. But we do need to check a GCF. We have 9, negative 9, negative 40. We don't have a GCF, which means we go right into factoring. All right. So, 9. That means I could have 1 times 9 or 3 times 3. 40 means I could have 1 and 40, 2 and 20. 3 doesn't work. I could have 4 and 10, or 5 and 8. So I have 2 options for my a value, 4 options for my c value. It's going to be fun. All right. I always start in the middle. I always start usually with 3x and 3x. It's just a habit. There's literally no rhyme or reason to it. I need to get to negative 9. So I'm going to look at these. 1 and 40, probably not going to get me there. 2 and 20, probably not going to get me there. 4 and 10, I'm going to start middle of the road, 5 and 8. Okay, so I have 5 and I have 8. So, I need two opposite signs, so that multiplies to be a negative 40. 3x times 3x is 3x, I'm sorry, 3x times 3x is 9x squared. 24x minus 15, oh my god, this is awesome. I did it right on the first try. 24x minus 15x, I almost did it right, is negative 9x. Is positive 9x. So I need to change my signs. Okay, so when I do that, this is a positive, this is a negative. Okay, so 3x times 2x is 9x squared. Negative 24x plus 15x is negative 9x. 5 times negative 8 is negative 40. That's your answer. Cool. Alright, number 2. I don't have a GCF because that 10 and 23 stops me right there. So, factors of 10 are 1 and 10 or 2 and 5. Factors of 42 are 1 and 42, 2 and 21, 3 and 14. 4 doesn't work, 5 doesn't work, 6 and 7 could work. And then we're good. Alright, so same thing. We got to set up our two sets of parentheses because we didn't have a GCF. I need to get to 23, so let's start 2x and 5x just out of habit. Let's see. We need to get to 40, or we need to get to 23. So I'm going to do, I don't know, 6 and 7 maybe. So let's do 6 here and 7 here, because then 14 and 30, let's see. That'll be 14 and 30. Just kidding. I'm looking at that and I'm not liking it. I'm going to change them. I'm going to put 7 here and 6 here. My signs need to be one of each. So 2x times 5x is, oh sorry, they should be a's, whatever. 2x times 5x is 10x squared. Negative 12x plus 35x is a positive 23. So I just need to change my signs. 7 times negative 6 is negative 42. So make that negative. Obviously check your work. 2x times 5x is 10x squared. 12x minus 35x is negative 23x. And then negative 42. There you go. Okay, you guys, as you can tell, excuse me, excuse me. This is the first time I've looked at these problems in a while. It's all guess and check. I'm not doing anything different than I would expect you to do, except I am doing a little bit more math in my head. Like when I did that last problem, I kind of started doing the foiling, or excuse me, the double distributing in my head and realizing, oh, that's not going to work. I'm going to switch the 7 and the 6. Okay, you might be there, you might not. It's okay if you're not. You just need to check your work, erase, and redo. Okay. All right. For number 3, the good news is I do have a GCF to make the numbers a little smaller. I believe, let's see, if I take out a 2 and an x, then I'm left with 15x squared minus 2 goes into 76 3 times with what, 38 times. And then plus, is that a 48? My computer loves to do this to me. All right. That's a 48x, so that's plus 24. Okay. All right. So now that we took out our GCF, that just comes down. My factors of 15 are 1 and 15, or 3 and 5. And my factors of 24 are 1 and 24, 2 and 12, 3 and 8, or 4 and 6. All right, so if we start playing around a little bit, we need to get to 38. So I'm going to do 3x and 5x, see where that gets me. And maybe 4 and 6. My signs have to be the same because I want a positive 24, and they have to be negative because my b value is negative. 3x times 5x is 15x squared. Negative 18 minus 20 is negative 38. Negative 4 times negative 6 is a positive 24. There you go. That's your answer. Okay? You guys, I was looking at that as I wrote out my factors and mentally starting to multiply these numbers together. That's how I did that right the first time. Okay? All right. These are the exact same thing, except now we need to add in that first and last step of making sure it's set equal to 0 and then solving at the end. So for number 4, it's already set equal to 0, so I'm going to check a GCF, which in this case is 3. And then I'm left with 2y squared plus 9y plus 10 equals 0. Which apparently, there we go. All right, so then my 3 drops down. The nice thing is my a is prime. My only options are 2y and y. This is either going to be 1 and 10 or 2 and 5, but both of my signs have to be plus. So I'm going to use 5 and 2. I'm going to put my 5 here and my 2 here. 2y times y is 2y squared. 4y plus 5y is 9y. 5 times 2 is 10. Beautiful. We got 3 factors there. And that first one, 3 equals 0, mathematically doesn't get me anywhere. 2y plus 5 equals 0. And y plus 2 equals 0. So one of my answers is negative 5 halves. And my other answer is negative 2. Okay. For number 5, that's not set equal to 0, so I need to subtract over. So you get 10p squared minus 13p minus 3 equals 0. You don't have a GCF, so set up your parentheses. We know 1 and 3 are our only options there, so I can put those in. I need to get to 13. Okay, so I'm going to do p and 10p, just because of my place in my 3. Because then, let's see if that'll work. I'm thinking 10 plus 3 is 13. Okay, good. I'm glad I set this up this way. It's technically wrong, but I want to show you. Because technically, if I want it to be negative 13, I would need a negative and a negative here. P times 10p is 10p squared. Negative 3p minus 10p is negative 13p. So it all looks great, but then negative 1 times negative 3 is a positive 3, and we want it to be negative. So I got to go back to the drawing board there. Okay. And say, okay, maybe instead I'll use 5p and 2p. If I want that to be 13, if I put my 3 here and my 1 here, make this negative, make this positive, I have 5p times 2p is 10p squared. 5p times negative 3 is negative 15p, plus 2p is negative 13p. 1 times negative 3 is negative 3. Awesome. All right, now I can solve. So 5p plus 1 equals 0, and 2p minus 3 equals 0. So one of your answers is negative 1/5. Sorry, my computer really sucks. And my other one is 3 halves. All right, the last one. I actually, on this one, I'm going to take this and I am going to move my 4a squared over like this to keep it positive, because why not? It's better than factoring out a negative GCF for no reason. So you have 4, well, not for no reason, but save the step. 4a squared minus 8a plus 3. All right, so if we take a look at that, no GCF there, so we can set up our 2 sets of parentheses. I can do 4 and 1 here, or 2 and 2. I'm going to do 2 and 2. because I need to get to 8, and I'm either going to add 4 and 1, or 4 and 3 and get 7, or multiply and get 12. So I'm going to start with 2 and 2 because I don't think 4 and 1 is going to get me anywhere. They need to be the same sign, and they both need to be negative, so -1 and -3. 2a times 2a is 4a squared. -6 minus 2 is -8. -1 times -3 is +3. Beautiful. So we have 2a minus 1 equals 0, and 2a minus 3 equals 0. So one of your answers is 1/2, and the other answer is 3/2. Okay. All right. Now, that's just factoring, but now we're going to take factoring and do it with a little bit of context. So, number 7 says find the length of the base and the height of the triangle given. All right, well, we know area of a triangle is 1/2 base times height. All right, hold on. This is getting ridiculous. All right, 1/2 base times height. All right, well, this tells me my area is 6, so I'm going to fill that in. The 1/2 isn't going to change. My base is 4x minus 5. And my height is x plus 2. All right, well, in order to solve this, I need to multiply this all out and have one side equal to 0. So you guys, I'm going to make my life easy. I'm going to get rid of that fraction. I'm going to multiply both sides by 2. And when I do that, these cancel. And then I'm left with 12 equals 4x minus 5 times x plus 2. All right, well, one side still isn't equal to 0. So the only option I have here is to multiply that out and say, okay, I have 12 equals, and then I am going to end up with 4x times x is 4x squared. Sorry, I'm going to erase this because I'm probably going to write over it. There we go. 4x squared. Then I get 8x minus 5x is a positive 3x, and -5 times 2 is -10. Now, I'm going to subtract 12 from both sides and get 0 equals 4x squared plus 3x minus 22. And in doing that, now I have something like up above where I can solve it. I don't have a GCF, so I'm going to set up my two sets of parentheses. It's not going to be the same thing as it came from because my C value has changed because I had to subtract over that 12. So, my only factors of 22 are 1 and 22, or 2 and 11. And my only factors of 4 are 1 and 4, or 2 and 2. I am going to go with 1 and 4, so 4x and x. So then I'm going to use my 2 and my 11, because 4x times 2 is 8. That's negative, and that's positive. 4x times x is 4x squared. -8 plus 11 is 3. 11 times -2 is 22. Or -22, which is what I wanted. Alright, so if you solve that, you're going to get one x value of a -11/4 and one x value of 2. Well, -11/4 isn't going to get me anywhere because it's going to get me negative dimensions. So -11/4 isn't going to work. The 2 does, but the questions say find the length and base, so don't tell me x is 2 because you're not actually answering the question. Go back and sub them in. So 2 plus 2 is 4, so we have 4 meters by 4 times 2 is 8, minus 5 is 3. So your dimensions are 4 meters by 3 meters. Okay. Number 8 is the same thing. We have the length of a rectangle is 2 centimeters less than 5 times the width of the rectangle. All right, well, let's draw a picture. Okay. The length is 2 centimeters less than 5 times the width. Well, if I call this x, then the other side is 2 less than 5 times the width. The area is 16, and they want the length and the width. Beautiful. So area equals length times width, so I'm going to multiply those together. Okay, it's the same idea as the one above. I cannot start solving because one side doesn't equal 0. So I'm going to multiply that out and get 16 equals 5x squared minus 2x. And then 0 equals 5x squared minus 2x minus 16 when you bring it over. Now it's set equal to 0, so you can factor what you have there. A is prime, so you have 5x and x. Those are your only options. But for 16, that could be 1 and 16. It could be 4 and 4. It could also be 8 and 2. All right, so with that being said, you need to get this to 2. I'm going to go with 8 and 2. If this is negative and this is positive, 5x times x is 5x squared. Negative 10x plus 8x is negative 2x. 8 times negative 2 is negative 16. Some of you might still be looking at this and thinking, lady, how do you do this so fast? This is impossible. You guys have been doing this for a long time. And like I said on the first day, the only way to get better at this is to do it, and do it again. Okay? So you are probably going to have to erase a lot. That's okay. I did too. Sometimes I still do, but you need to keep at it. Okay? Giving up is not going to get you anywhere. Remember I talked about, like, you got to get through these couple days of like, oh my God, this is so hard, so that you get to that point of clicking where it's not too bad. Now, if I set 5x plus 8 equal to 0, maybe someday, there we go, and x minus 2 equal to 0, I get negative 8/5 and 2. Well, while this is an answer, contextually that makes no sense. I'm not going to give this side right here that's x a negative distance. So if it's asking for the dimensions, I would say, okay, awesome. Well, this side is 2, so 2 in this case centimeters, by, if I plug 2 in here, 5 times 2 minus 2 is 8 centimeters. So those are your dimensions. Okay. All right, on the back, the last two. Same idea. The product of two numbers is 26. So something times something equals 26. And one of the numbers is 1 larger than 6 times the other number. So I have x, and I have 6x plus 1, because the second number is 1 larger than 6 times the other, and it should equal 26. So you multiply this out, you get 6x squared plus 6x squared plus x equals 26. So then you get 6x squared plus x minus 26 equals 0. Okay, so if you factor that out, you don't have a GCF. Let's see. Factors of 26 are 1 and 26 or 2 and 13. Those are your only options. And we need to get to 1. All right, I'm going to use 6x and x, so then I can multiply my 6 by my 2. I have my 13 here. And then this is going to be negative. This is going to be positive. 6x times x is 6x squared. Negative 12x plus 13x is x. 13 times negative 2 is negative 26. So we get negative 13 over 6 and positive 2. All right, so the two numbers, we have a couple options here. Let's start with the easy one. If x is 2, that means one of the numbers is 2, and the other one is 6 times 2 plus 1, or 13. So that's one of them. Or one of the options is negative 13 over 6. And the other one, let's see, 6 times negative 13 over 6 is going to be negative 13 because your 6's will cancel. Negative 13 plus 1 is negative 12. So we have two options. Both are answers. Okay. So I just took the 2 I got and substituted it back in here, if you're wondering where that second number came from. All right, last but not least, a room contains 112 chairs. The number of chairs per row is 5 less than 3 times the number of rows. Find the number of chairs per row. All right, so think about, if you're trying to figure out how many chairs a room has, you take the number of chairs in one row times however many rows you have. And we know if we take the number of rows times the number of chairs in each row, then that should get me 112 because that's the total chairs. All right, well, we obviously don't know either of these things, okay? So it says the number of chairs per row is 5 less than 3 times the number of rows. Well, I don't know how many rows there are. I'm going to call that x. But I do know the number of chairs per row is 5 less than 3 times that. So 3x minus 5. So same deal. Multiply it out. If you want to do this one, pause my video and then check it. That'd be a good idea. You get 3x squared minus 5x equals 112. Bring it over so you have 3x squared minus 5x minus 112 equals 0. All right, no GCF there, but we know we have 3x and x. Those aren't going to change. Factors of 112. All right, let's see. 1 and 112. 2 and, let's see, 56. Does 3 work? 3 goes into 112. 3 goes into 11. Does 3 go into 112? Sorry, guys, I don't have my calculator on me. Otherwise, I'd make this quick. 3 goes in, let's see, 3 times with 2. No, 3 doesn't work. Does 4 work? 4 goes into 112. 4 goes into 11 twice with 3 left over. So 4 and 28. 5 doesn't work. I don't think 6 works. 6 goes into, no. 7 goes in, no, 7 doesn't work. I don't think. Let's not trust my math late at night. 7 goes into 11 once. Well, good thing I didn't trust my math, because it does. 7 and 16. 8 should work since 4 did. 8 goes into 112 once with 3 left over, so it's 8 and 14. 9 into 112. I don't think it works. It's one. No. 10 doesn't work. 11 doesn't work. 12 doesn't work. 13 doesn't work. And then we're back up at 14. Sweet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 options. Okay, not too bad. Sorry, guys. Should have had that set up and ready to go, but then at least you see the actual process that I'm working through that you should too. All right, we're going to have different signs because 112 is negative. I need to get to 5. All right, so I'm not even going to do 1 and 112. I'm going to start in the middle with 8 and 14 maybe. Let's see, if I do 8 here and 14 here, 3x times x is 3x squared. 8 or 24 minus 14 is 10. Okay, so that's not going to work. I'm not going to waste my time switching these because 3 times 14 isn't going to get me close to 8. So let's try 7 and 16. So I'm gonna put my 7 here and my 16 here. 3x times x is 3x squared. 21x minus 16x is a positive 5, so I just need to change my signs. That's going to be positive, and then make this guy negative. So 3x times x is 3x squared. Negative 21 plus 16 is negative 5. 16 times negative 7 is negative 112. So if you set those equal to 0, 3x plus 16 is 0, and x minus 7 is 0. So this is going to get me negative 16 thirds. We're trying to find the number of rows. That doesn't make sense. This gets me 7. So 7 is the answer because it just says, oh, just kidding. 7's not the answer. It's going to get me there. It says find the number of chairs per row. Well, there's 7 rows. So now remember, this was my number of chairs per row. So I'm going to take 7, 3 times 7, minus 5, which is 21 minus 5. So 16 chairs is your answer. Okay? All right. Go ahead and spend the rest of the time doing the homework. But real quick, there are, for some reason, 2 random mistakes on the key. So when you get it, you might want to just hit pause real quick and go up and get it from the sub. They're correct on the Google Drive, but for some reason on your worksheet, they're missing their GCFs. Like that 3 never came through in the -1. So throw those on your worksheet so you can make sure that when you're checking them, you know you're checking them correctly. Cool? Come see me with questions.